Bears and Penguins by Max. This book is dedicated to Mrs. Weber, my advanced reading teacher. Introduction. Did you know Antarctica and the Arctic are some of the coldest places on Earth? What animals could possibly live here? Well, the polar bear and penguin, of course. Antarctica can be as cold as negative 76 degrees Fahrenheit. While reading this, you will learn about how polar bears and penguins adapt, the polar region's climate, what they eat, and what they have in common. Polar bears and penguins are truly fascinating animals that have been ruling the polar regions for countless years. They have survived in the coldest places on Earth. Could you survive as a polar bear or penguin? Adaptations. Adapting is not a fast process. It sometimes takes hundreds of years to make a small adaptation. It's like trying to train a squid not to eat a penguin sometimes. Penguins have adapted many ways since they came into existence. They are adapted from birds and lost the ability to fly eons ago, though they are great swimmers because of their flippers and webbed feet. The white color on their bellies helps them blend in with the snow to avoid predators. Because penguins can't fly, they use their wings, as seen on left, as flippers to swim better. They have also adapted to the cold by developing thick skin and fat. They also have a behavioral adaptation where they will huddle together for warmth. The polar bear has also adapted in many ways. Like penguins, polar bears have a clear fur that is white at the appearance. This helps them blend in with the snow. To keep warm, polar bears have black skin under their fur to attract heat from the sun. 2 layers of thick fur also keep them warm. A strong sense of smell helps the polar bear find and catch prey. But unlike most bears, they won't go into a deep sleep in the winter. Did you know that bears don't really hibernate? They go into a deep sleep called a torpor. Climate. As you may know, the polar regions are very cold. The North Pole has gotten as cold as negative 58 degrees Fahrenheit. In fact, the average temperature in the winter is negative 29 degrees Fahrenheit. Summer is 32 degrees Fahrenheit. 32 degrees Fahrenheit is cold in America, but in the Arctic, it's actually warm. The wind is usually low, but not always. Polar bears face a lot of challenges in the Arctic. Antarctica is also a very cold place. The coldest it has ever been in Antarctica is minus 128 degrees Fahrenheit. The average temperature in the winter is minus 56 degrees Fahrenheit. In East Antarctica, temperatures can get to 32 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer. For Antarctica, this is like 70 degrees Fahrenheit. To make it even colder, though, wind speeds can stay at a steady 68 miles per hour for long periods of time. I'd call penguins the masters of staying warm. The menu. Polar bears and penguins both are carnivores. Nothing will harm a polar bear. But while penguins are in the water, killer whales and seals will kill and eat penguins. On a better note, let's view what they eat. Penguins eat a few different things. Krill is the main item on the menu of a penguin. Krill are small and very similar to shrimp. They will also eat fish. The species of fish they eat are silverfish, lanternfish, sprats, pilchards, mullets, anchovies, sardines, cod, opalfish, and other small fish. They eat squid as well. They sure have a nice menu. Polar bears eat much heavier animals than penguins. Their main item is the seal. One 121-pound seal can provide a polar bear with enough energy to last 8 days. They also eat small whales, such as the bugle whale. The polar bear will also eat walruses. The final thing they eat is narwhals. Polar bears eat a lot. Similarities. Even though polar bears and penguins are very different, they do have similarities too. For instance, they both live in cold climates. Even though they live on the other sides of the world and Antarctica is much colder, both are still cold climates. Did you know that the polar bear that the polar regions are cold because heat from the sun bounces off the equator, causing little or no heat to get to these cold areas, as seen above. Polar bears and penguins also have similar diets, adaptations, and family life. Their diets are actually surprisingly alike. They both eat only meat, or you could say they're carnivores. Both of their diets also mainly consist of marine animals. Polar bears will usually have bigger meals of seals versus penguins' small batch of fish. Polar bears and penguins rely on snow to help keep them concealed from predators. Over time, they have grown white fur to blend in with the snow. Not many things will grab them off land, but it's nice to have safety precautions sometimes. Family life between the two species is both very similar and yet so different. The difference is that for penguins, the mom and dad share the parenting duties, but the polar bear male will almost leave entirely after the birth of a cub, making them among the worst fathers in the animal kingdom. But they are similar because the babies depend entirely on the parents for nearly everything for the first 8 months or so of their lives. Did you know? To get clean, polar bears will roll around in the snow. This is called a snow bath. Conclusion. Now you've learned how polar bears and penguins adapt, what the cold climate is like, what they eat, and what they have in common. Polar bears and penguins are very different in terms of how they live life, but they do have things in common. Antarctica actually holds the record for coldest temperature ever on Earth. The Arctic is just as cold. Polar bears and penguins have adapted well to their climate, and it continues to help them today. So, would you rather be a polar bear or penguin?